Find a new way to live in Toronto's coveted Forest Hill neighborhood. Foray by Canderel blends thoughtful, livable suite design with refined finishes and more than 50,000 square feet of amenities, including wellness spaces, work-from-home areas, fitness facilities, and places to unwind. A modern, elevated community crafted for the life you've earned. Your next home starts from $599,000. Learn more at live@foray.ca. That's live at FORET.ca.
Every single morning when I get up and when I get dressed, I make the choice to cover my hair.
Okay, so that's a scene from the new documentary called Sheitel, Beauty in the Hidden by Halifax filmmaker Lynda Medjuck Suissa. Most people might think they understand why married Orthodox Jewish women cover their hair, but as Jewish Heritage Month begins, her film is challenging those assumptions through the voices of some of the most high-profile Jewish women who actually do it, whether it's wearing fashionable wigs, or sheitels as they're called in Yiddish, or scarves or hats, or even a combination. The film interviews about 30 women, including many from Canada's Jewish community, like Nechama Dubrawsky, who you heard at the start, the rebbetizin of the Yorkville Jewish Centre in Toronto, to the Challah Mom, Anat Ishai, a Toronto-born Instagram influencer who lives in Israel. And there's celebrity cookbook author Jamie Geller and the Jewish matchmaker Eliza Ben Shalom from Netflix. The film explains in their voices that contrary to what some recent popular Netflix films showed about brides who left the ultra-Orthodox world in New York, for these women, covering their hair is not about oppression at all. It's about spirituality, beauty, respect, and even what goes on in the privacy of the marital bedroom, as Rebbetzin Rivky Gansburg of Toronto explained.
We're trying to go within, and covering your hair with a wig still accomplishes that, where you're fully covering, you're doing the mitzvah, you're fully covering your hair, and you're covering that concept of connection and privacy, that when you are within your own bedroom and your own four walls, you could uncover your hair, and that's reserved for your husband.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Friday, May 1st, 2026. Welcome to North Star, the flagship podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, made possible thanks to the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Lynda Medjuck Suissa is best known for her first career film about the beloved Jewish summer camp, Camp Kadima, in her home province of Nova Scotia. This new film moves from the secular world to the religious one, and not in judgment, but in curiosity. We get to see intimate scenes inside the salons of wig stylists. We follow a bride trying on her first wig, and there are candid conversations with Ruchi Freier, the first Hasidic Supreme Court judge in New York State, to former Montreal City Councillor Mindy Pollak, while we hear where the mitzvah originated and whether wearing a pricey blonde wig could be considered too beautiful or just right. Medjuck Suissa elected not to share her own journey in this film, although she considers herself modern Orthodox, a lifestyle choice she made after visiting Israel when she was 18. She joins me now to explain why so many people have so many misconceptions about this part of Jewish life. Congratulations. It's a wonderful film. Good to meet you.
Thank you so much, Ellen, and thank you for watching it.
Could we try to explain what drew you to tell this story?
So first of all, I was inspired by a film that was made by my sister, Beth Medjuck, of blessed memory, who made a film for her Master's of Communication in 1996. She chose Chabad and Orthodox women, modern Orthodox women, and Hasidic women. And she was just trying to prove that despite people thinking that Orthodox or observant Jewish women are subjugated and oppressed, she showed in this movie, it was just a 20-minute movie, but it really showed that that's just a false narrative, that these women are strong and committed and devoted and cool. And I always, that it was 1996, but it always stuck with me. And she passed away in 2004, and I had gotten into filmmaking, and I just really wanted to honor her with this. And that was part of it. The other part was things were just creeping up for the Jewish people in terms of false narratives. Israel when I was in Israel, and I think it was 2016, I was on the train and I saw how diverse Jerusalem is. You have women in hijabs, women in wigs, women in hats, men that are Hasidic, men that are from all religions, Christian, Muslim, and everybody's together on the train. And I just really wanted to show that, and I did. So whether it's within Jewish women can look completely different, to be in a tank top or be in a wig and a full, long sleeve dress sitting next to each other, and all different religions. And I really wanted to show that. And the third thing that inspired me was, I think it was around 2022, when Netflix had two shows that everybody I know watched. And then all of a sudden they knew everything about Hasidic women. One was Unorthodox, and the other was My Unorthodox Life. I had a lot of people, and some of them were my non-Jewish friends, who were just telling me everything. They knew everything about Hasidic women. And these were two specific cases of like very, very negative representations. And it really upset me. So just talk to people. And that was what my sister's film was. Don't judge people by what they look like on the outside. Sit down and talk to them. And that could be any religion. And people who see it, I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know they're like that. So it's just open your eyes about any kind of person that you haven't talked to, and you'll learn something.
In your own personal growing upness, in your family, were you Orthodox? I mean, was this something you knew intimately?
So I grew up, in a kosher home, in a traditional home. I think I became Shomer Shabbat when I was 18, when I first went to Israel. And I just knew growing up religious women, Orthodox women. And then through my many years of association, I just knew many. Some who covered their hair with wigs, and some who covered their hair with headscarves. And I just was always very inspired that they looked beautiful. They did whatever they wanted to do, whatever, dressed how they wanted to dress. But most of the women that I knew that did this were so devoted. They did it as an act of their own devotion. And they were just strong and happy. So I was always inspired by them, If you know any, Hasidic women, they have, a job, 8 kids, putting a Shabbat dinner together for 20 people, and also, keeping it together and looking beautiful. It's inspiring. I've always, even though if I wasn't part of that community exactly, Hasidic or ultra Orthodox, I always knew a lot of people that I admired.
Can we explain to our listeners where this comes from? Because there's tons of sort of misconceptions, right, about the rules, the Torah, the Talmud.
I mostly interviewed women, but I wanted to understand the law, right? Because I needed to sit down with the rabbis and their wives to understand what's the law. And what I understood, and they say in the film, that in the Torah, there is a story where it is inferred that a Jewish woman had her hair covered. And what the rabbis say is that not all of the laws, there's 613 mitzvot laws in the Torah that are explicit, do this, do that. But some things are like inferred. So there is a law in the Talmud that says a Jewish woman should cover her hair. Then how it is done is interpreted by all of the different groups within Judaism, right? So you have some that won't wear wigs, and some that will wear wigs, and some that cover to a certain degree or a different degree. And one of the rabbis said it was the law of Moses, law of Dat Moshe. So it's not necessarily rooted in any kind of shame. It's rooted in this story in the Torah, but there are other stories that relate to it as well. And the other thing is, if you look at religions, all the different religions, and that I talk about in the movie as well, hair covering is part of many religions, and they don't have this sota story either. Even Christians would cover their hair in the Middle Ages, and even till today, some Christians may put on
The nuns do, for sure.
The nuns, the Muslims, and all over the world, hair covering for women has been something. So does it all stem from Judaism and the Torah, or is it in the movie? We also talk about, is it about modesty? And the rabbis and the ladies say it's not about modesty. it's about marriage. So that was a whole other thing that I didn't understand.
Let's explore that a little bit because I find that absolutely fascinating.
Mhm.
We all have different views of what people who choose to wear wigs do it, what reasons they do it for. I always thought it was, oh, poor women, they have to wear wigs. And I'd like you to explain what you heard comes towards the end of the movie. The sex parts come at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. For me, explaining it without somebody seeing the movie, it would sound like that's ridiculous. But after you see the movie and listen to them, especially the Rebbetzin Rivky Gansburg from Florida, who talks about, when you're with your husband and you take off your wig, that's the real you, and he sees the real you. And I kind of relate that to Dolly Parton, whose husband just passed away this year, but she always said that the real Dolly Parton wasn't what she looked like, and her husband was the only one who ever saw her. I think that's what they're talking about, is seeing the real me. I interviewed a certain type of group of women that most of them wear wigs. Some of them were wearing turbans. There's a lot of modern Orthodox women who don't cover their hair who would say, no, my husband sees the real me. So this was a slice of a population and how they think. And I found it really interesting.
I just clear up one thing. There's different things that people wear. So let's talk about the category. There's the wig, which is called a wig or a sheitel.
Right.
Then what other things are they allowed to wear on top of it are different? There's different terms, so let's just explain it.
So many women, and in Israel, like I said, it's very stylish now to wear a mitpachat rosh with a headscarf, and some are like bigger turbans. But also there are some rabbis that don't like wigs, or some women that don't like wigs. And I did actually interview a woman from LA, and her handle is a little Ticha lady, and she chose on her own. She's Persian, and a lot of the Sephardim didn't used to wear wigs, but she chose to wear a scarf, even though her husband's family, the women all wore wigs. And after she saw the first thing of the movie, she didn't want to be in it anymore because her brand is not wigs, it's scarves. And she's beautiful, and she wears a beautiful scarf. So, I did some scarves. I didn't do a whole thing on the scarves and a controversy, because some people believe in scarves, not wigs. And some people wear both. Like there was Chaya Lester.
You wore 3 layers. Exactly.
Or this was a wig, then there was a hat and a scarf wrapped around it. So there's styles and everything. So there's styles and hair covering. But, I think it wasn't geographically where you were. It was more who your community was. And so there are communities in Borough Park and in Crown Heights that look exactly like communities in Israel or in Australia. Those are communities that follow certain guidelines.
When you're talking about modesty, and that's tzniut or tznius, as some people would call it, there is a controversy about these actual head coverings, because one would think that you have to have a plain Jane type of wig because you don't want to be too fancy, too fashionable, too attractive. And there's this dichotomy. I wonder if you could unpack that a little bit. What is that internal debate in Jewish circles about how gorgeous your head covering can be?
So there are different Hasidic groups. There are different other Orthodox groups that are Hasidic, but each one has their own belief system in terms of what has been passed down. All of the Chabad that I spoke to, Chabad Lubavitch, believe that a wig should be as beautiful as possible. And the Rebbe, the Lubavitch Rebbe, there's a part in the movie where we talk about why he promoted this. And I'm like giving away the best parts of the movie.
Spoiler alert, he wanted to do it not for subjugation, but so that they would not be seen as greeners when they got off the boat.
Well,
right?
like actually a friend of mine told me that her grandmother said that coming over, she threw her wig off the boat. They didn't want to be seen as like not an American, let's say, or a Canadian. But historically wigs were coming back into fashion in the early 60s, and they were the kind that you could just put on, and then you have a wig like for $8.
My mother had them, I'm sure.
Women are coming to America. They want to work. They want to be able to get jobs and look professional and not have to, take off their head covering. But the point that you were saying, though, we also talk about in the movie beauty. So it doesn't say anywhere that a woman shouldn't be beautiful. And a lot of the women were saying, if I feel good and I feel good when I look in the mirror, when I leave the house, I feel put together, I'm going to accomplish more. And not everybody feels that way. Some people don't mind how they look or not look, but if you do want to look good, you're allowed to. And there are different, groups of Hasidim, and Satmar maybe do not have as beautiful wigs. And there's one woman in the film who wears a hat on top of her wig to show that she's married. So I tried to touch on as many themes as possible, but the theme of a woman looking beautiful and put together and proud of herself and how she looks is definitely part of Jewish thinking.
As you mentioned Satmar, in some of those films that you mentioned right off the top, we see Shira Haas, the actress, having to shave her hair before her wedding. Where does shaving, is that a big part of the global population of Jewish women who do this, or is it just like a smaller sect that still do it?
It's in the Satmar mostly, and it's an old custom. And I asked the question about shaving. Everybody I spoke to, including the Sheitel, the wig stylists, said that it's a very, very small part of the population. And one lady from Borough Park, which is a very, very, very Hasidic place, said that today a lot of the some young girls still want to do it. It's like, when you see some young Buddhist monks that are all shaving their head and wearing the orange, like I saw a whole group of them in the airport the other day, like they're like in their 20s, and some people are devoted and want to do that. It's still a very small section of the Jewish women from my research. And this lady from Borough Park said the husbands don't really like it anymore either. So, times change for people, and you can't, I think my whole film is don't look at one lady and assume, everything about an entire group of people. And that should be for all religions, a man who's wearing a turban, a Sikh, you know what I mean? You don't know about this person until you sit down and talk to them. And that's kind of what this is about. And it's complicated. Religion's complicated. It's personal. Also, like all the women I talked to were so awesome, so strong, and so, wise. They had so much to say. So I think that's part. I don't know. What do you think? Did you like the women when you watched it?
I know many of them. I've heard many of them speak. I've interviewed some of them, so it was beautiful. And I've interviewed their husbands, of course. We should mention some of the people in the film that our Canadians would know. Of course, the Challah Mom is in it.
Anat
Ishai and the Dubrawskys, Rebbetzin Nechama, Rabbi Meir from the Chabad Yorkville Jewish Center. We have Jamie Geller, not Canadian, but famous in the cooking world, Hasidic hipsters. Eliza Ben Shalom is in it, the Netflix matchmaker. We know you live in Halifax, and your Chabad rabbi's family, the Feldmans, are in it. Also, Rabbi Kerzner, Lisa and Yaakov Kerzner from Halifax, Adrienne Gold Davis from the Momentum. I mean, I know, and of course, Mendel Kaplan and Faygie, lots of them, the Gansburgs, and on and on.
And also the runner, Bidi Deutsch. She's Israel champion marathon runner, 4-time marathon champion. She competes all over the world, and
beautiful.
Wears in her running, she wears a headscarf and like a lycra. She wears long sleeves and a long skirt to run. I mean, below her knees. And then she came for the interview, and she's wearing this gorgeous wig. And she's like, "Yeah, when I run, I wear a scarf. When I wear a wig." So that's a lot of devotion.
It's interesting to see some of the women you got to speak with because, for example, the first Orthodox Jewish public elected Hasidic woman to hold public office, a judge in New York State. You mentioned the hijab situation, so I want to go back to it for a minute. We know in Iran, women take their hijabs off or even have a little hair showing. They get arrested, they get beaten by the Basiji, they get jailed, executed sometimes. And then you see the contrast to women who embracing head coverings and telling you that it deepens their faith. They feel energized. They feel empowered. How do you put those two and hold those two together?
Look at all the Jewish women in the world. This is a choice, right? This is a complete choice, and it's maybe if you're in an Orthodox community and you don't want to be in that community and you leave that community, you're not going to cover your hair. I think that if you grow up in a community and you love it and everybody does something and you can look good and feel good, as the movie showed, like the young bride, she was looking forward to it and that was who she wanted to be, you know? I think wearing a burqa or wearing a hijab that doesn't show any hair and you just have to show your face, I mean, that's hard. And I know a lot of Muslim people embrace it, and that's really, really good. I think it's easier to wear a wig or wear a headscarf that's fancy and, you know, wear makeup and nice clothes as some of the women do. But I think they're two totally different things. And I think the idea of women feeling and looking as beautiful as they want is what this story said. People will meet, you know, other women who they may think are subjugated. But I think in general, I believe that from my research that Jewish women should feel empowered. Like the judge said, if you remember, and she is actually a Supreme Court justice in New York State, and she was very inspiring. And she said, it's the Torah that gives us the power. And Rivky Gansburg and also Hani Lipsker, they both talked about, you know, a woman has to be respected. That's in the Torah. A man has to respect his wife. So every religion has its own rules, but in Judaism, it's right there that you have to be respectful of women, and women should feel beautiful if they want to feel beautiful. So that's part of what I learned by talking to these people.
And coming up, can you wear your sheitel when you go swimming? And other myths and facts about covering your hair as an Orthodox Jewish married woman.
What did you learn about the range of pricing in the wig industry?
Right. So in the film, there were two women, young women from Israel that had what they were saying was Brazilian hair, and it was very well priced. And they had these pop-up sales, and we show like 100 women come, and, you know, the wigs are all over the table and they're very well priced. I don't know if the lowest could be $500 or $300. Then we talked to Shani in New York and says that they go up to $15,000. Are most Jewish women wearing wigs that are that much? I do not think so. And then there was a whole other section that I had to cut out about celebrities because it was just getting off topic. But Shani and all the others, a lot of were saying that most celebrities that you see are wearing wigs today, and they're the expensive ones. There's the wigs, you cannot tell that they're wigs. Like Jennifer Lopez is wearing a wig most of the time. But
what I want to ask you about is some of the misconceptions that people outside of the community have told you, and then they see the film and then they maybe change.
So do you mean outside of the Jewish community or outside of the Orthodox community?
Well, whoever sees the movie.
So most of the film festivals that I went to were mostly secular people coming. And across the board, so many people were saying, wow, I learned so much. Wow, that's amazing. This is beautiful. I'm so inspired. Some younger women, when I say younger, like in their 30s or 40s, younger than me, were saying they felt really emotional. They didn't know why. And I thought that was interesting. Some non-Jewish friends of mine, men and women, were like, wow, they learned so much about Judaism. They learned so much about spirituality. So I find that really fulfilling. This is just a broad understanding of Jewish Orthodox women and what it means to take on some of these rules, which aren't easy, but they're acts of devotion. And when you see the scenes in Jerusalem, you know, when I was in Jerusalem, it was 38 degrees the day we were filming, and people were covered from head to toe of all religions. And it was so hot. That's devotion, I think. But the other thing I just wanted to say that I felt really good about was, you know, I think Jewish unity is a very important topic for all of us, and we strive to it, and we should strive for it. And, you know, if secular people can look at religious people and not condemn them or not say, you know, they're weird or they're this or they're, you know, they're different, if they can sort of understand them as people, I think that's good for Jewish people. We're all one. And one of the Hasidic women even said, you know, you think this is crazy, learn about it. You'd want me to learn about you. We're all Jews. I found that was like a really important part of the movie.
I learned a ton. Can religious women take them off if they're in the pool? Like, how does that work?
Who?
Or the beach?
A lot of if you've been to the beach in Israel or any a pool in any, like, they wear these long dresses that are made of bathing suit material, and they wear their hair in a kerchief, and the kerchief is made of like what's it called, like lycra. So technically, they can take off everything, in front of other women. It's supposed to be other men aren't supposed to see your hair, but I think they say they adopt this as a way of life, and they don't necessarily, like, even if they go to the gym, they put something on their hair. But these women go to the gym, a lot of them, and are just wearing gym clothes because they're going to an all-women's gym. Swimming with the Sheitel, I think, would be a no. Because
it would ruin it. If you're spending $15,000 on this high-class wig, you're not going to put chlorine on it for sure.
But, like, you could always just drop it off at your Sheitel macher for a blow dry and leave it there, then come pick it up. That's what they said, too, which was kind of cool.
Right, because people need more than one. I love the lady. Tell me about her. She said the most amazing thing. She has like 20 wigs or something.
Oh, Yafa, the wig stylist, asked Sandy, how many wigs do you have? And she goes, oh, I don't want to say. And then she said, double digits, could be 20. And then, no, she said, my husband thinks he's married to 20 different women.
I know that it's already been out in some film festivals in Florida and elsewhere. Where are the next upcoming ones?
The screening, well, there have been festivals, Miami, Boca, Las Vegas, Halifax, the Atlantic Jewish Film Festival. It's going to Vancouver. It's been in Chicago. It's going to Winnipeg. It did not get accepted to the Toronto Jewish Film Festival, which we can discuss or not, but that was too bad. But we're still going to do some screenings in Toronto.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a bit of a wow because I filmed, a big part of it here in Toronto with some really well-known people. Anyway, I hope that those who get to see it here will like it, and hopefully I'll be able to stream it eventually, and because it's a message that I want to share with as many people as possible.
Thank you so much.
I'm Ellen Besner, and that's what Jewish Canada sounded like for this episode of North Star, made possible thanks to Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin's charitable foundation. As you heard, this film is screening in several cities across North America. If you go to the link in our show notes, you can find the dates and locations and buy tickets. North Star is produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman and Michael Freeman. Alicia Richler is the editorial director, and the music was composed by Brett Higgins. Thanks for listening.